Hey, Board Gamers, BJ from Board Game Gumbo here, back with another episode of Gumbo Live. It's episode number 93. We're testing some things out. Hopefully you could see that intro. I have no idea. It looked like it was working on Facebook, something my buddy Carlos put together. BJ from Board Game Gumbo here. Gumbo Live, #1 Facebook Live talk show dedicated to board gaming. Don't have any special guests yet, but we may have some surprise appearances tonight. Board Game Gumbo, a proud member of Punchboard Media. Check out some of our other fine members, like the State of Games podcast. They're back. That's right. Chris, Daryl, and TC took a nice hiatus, but they're back. They've got a great podcast focusing on con travel, the games that they play, lots of design tips, and news from the world of gaming. Punchboard Media, where we all bring something to the table. Hit us up on social media tonight at Board Game Gumbo, and we'll be looking for your questions on the chat. Got my buddy Steve. Hopefully the name father is ready to come in. Let's see if this works. Steve, joining us live.
Hey, BJ.
What's up, name father? So we're testing out the new system. Did the intro work?
I didn't see a thing.
Dang it. Nothing at all. Oh, man. So
no. But I hope maybe it's different for the folks who are watching, not from the lobby area. We'll see how it goes. Maybe some folks will chime in and say what they saw.
I checked it out on Facebook at least, and it looked like it was working, but I'm just not sure. So we're gonna have to check that out as we're going in. See if anybody is in the chat. Good. I heard you had a game night recently, man.
We did, yeah. Actually, after Patrick and Eric were on. And my friend Luke was watching as well, and Luke is around the corner practically on Long Island from Eric.
Sure.
So we started chatting a little bit more with Eric and say we got to get you over sometime, and worked out to be just fine. Beginning of November, we had Eric over and had a game night for 4 of us, and he brought some stuff. We brought some stuff, pizza, beer, games. It was good.
So what did you end up playing?
Well, again, after you had Eric on talking about Fortune and Glory, we were saying, let's bring that along, set that one up. And that was going to be the new game of the evening for us. We finally gotten to the point where I think we recognize you got to do something small to get started or end, something that you know that you're going to be able to get to the table in the night. And we played that, Castles of Burgundy, and one new teach that you really, honestly, couldn't call it much of a teach because the game is so simple, so smooth. Eric also brought Silver and Gold, the Phil Walker Harding, Flip and Right. We played that first while we warmed up.
Yeah, Steve, you're starting to lag a little bit, but the audio is working great. So I switched you over. I switched you over to audio only. We're testing out the system tonight and see if that's working. Yeah, because you were starting to freeze up there, but I could hear you audio. Silver and Gold. Which one do you want to talk about? Fortune and Glory or Silver and Gold?
Well, which do you want? You want the good news or the bad news, I suppose?
Yeah, let's start with the good news. You and I are both Phil Walker Harding fans. So tell me a little bit about what you found out.
Well, Silver and Gold was one that I wanted to play, and it was good to know that Eric had a copy. And if you want to know what the review was, as soon as we were finished playing it, and while we were waiting for the pizza, I was placing my order. Not for pizza, but for the little new game.
Right?
Yeah, exactly. Very good little game. Maybe 15, 20 minutes. And from what Eric was saying, we played it with 4, but he's played it at all levels, and it's really smooth at all of them.
Right.
Kind of has a little bit of an element of Tetris in terms of fitting things into spaces that are like islands, essentially. And you're filling up and finishing cards and claiming them as rewards and victories, but also crossing things off on your scoring. It was just so easy to pick up. All of us really enjoyed it, and now we've got another copy in the works.
Name file, I'm not sure if you're checking out the chat crew, but Christian Strain, who, by the way, I got to see Christian and Aaron at BGG Con. What's up, Chris? And Chris got to see his actual Asking for Troubles in the original edition out there at BGG Con.
Very cool.
He says the intro was working. It was doing some music with the background and the logo.
That's good. I'm not seeing comments because I'm looking at it on Be Live, but I'll open the Facebook window and look at it side by side. If you've got me on audio, it won't look weird that I'm looking.
Yeah,
back
so
and forth.
you're not seeing you're not seeing the chat crew comments scrolling on the side.
I'm not seeing it. I see public on the side, host chat, but I'm seeing nothing on either of those little areas.
So get off of that host chat. Maybe make sure you click on the public one.
Yeah, I'm on the public one. I'm not seeing it either way.
Hey, there's Jesse Fernandez. What's up, Jesse? We saw him only once, like in the last 2 or 3 shows. So nice to see you checking in. So Steve, you were telling us the name. By the way, chat crew, the name father was telling us about Silver and Gold. He liked it so much that he actually purchased it that night. I know it's a flipping right, but what else can you tell us about it?
Well, essentially, it's kind of the same thing. You're pulling out cards that are flipped that show you different, tile kinds of placements. You have cards that you claim in front of you as like little islands that you need to fill. You need to fill up the spaces on those. And as you complete them, you move them off to the side and claim them for points. And you can be doing some set collecting in that as well. You know that there's a certain number of cards and a certain number of shapes that will come out in each round except for one. So you can kind of do some planning and claiming of those islands. It was very clever. It was not what you think of with like roll and write kind of stuff with things like Knock Mall or Rolling America, where you're crossing things off. You were filling in an island and claiming that as a card that was like a trophy for you. And you score up at the end of things with getting some gold that gives you extra privileges, getting some extra spaces that get you like out of trouble. It was very clever, very smooth. But what do you expect from Phil Walker Harding? You expect him to get the essence of something, nail it, bells and whistles, just give you something that does what it's supposed to, gets in, gets out, and leaves you happy.
Yep, that sounds like most of the Phil Walker Harding games. I actually taught one all week at BGG Con. I was teaching Emotep the Duel, which you and I used to play on.
That's true.
Yukata?
I think it was on Yukata that they had that one, yeah.
Or BGA.
I think it was Yukata. Such a good little game.
Yeah, so I had never played it in person. And I'm used to the computer doing everything for us. So there was a couple of rules that we had to kind of work through to make sure that we got right. We weren't, I don't remember this from whenever you and I played, but there's a little corner piece on the edge of the board that kind of juts out, and it was a place where you could put pieces on. We had no idea what it was for.
Yeah,
so we used it as the staging area for pieces coming in. I still think that's what it is, but there is. You remember you remember the little blue cards, the little blue tiles?
Right. Yeah.
Yeah. So there's a couple of blue tiles that let you grab from the quote reserve. And if you go to the next paragraph on the rule book, it's kind of out of order and it's kind of disjointed, but it says to grab it from there and it kind of points to that. So I'm thinking that that's what that is, but we use it as a staging area so you can kind of see how many tiles are going to be coming in before the game ends. So.
If there was going to be something that I would get wrong playing it in person compared to online, it was the unloading of the boats thing. That you have to make sure unload them and make sure that they're coming off in the right order. You're not necessarily taking the third spot if there's a spot in the middle that's empty. You're unloading in the order that they go and they just fill in. If a computer wasn't doing that for me, I'd have to remind myself each time that those unloading rules.
So we got about 10 minutes before our special guest comes in, Steve. Ooh. And I don't know if you noticed the new studio allows this is dangerous. The new studio allows me to broadcast the broadcast if anybody wants to join in. So, hey, Dave Dugas, you want to come in and talk about what we did this weekend at there? There's the link. I've got it live on the screen. Chris Strain, you want to come in and talk about your week at Breaking Games? Come on in and talk about it. So this might be a mistake, Steve. What could possibly go wrong?
Might be? Did you say might be?
Might be. Yeah. What could possibly go wrong?
You're just dying to bust out the Larry King. Raleigh, North Carolina.
Raleigh, you're on with Marilyn Monroe. Marilyn, we've got Long Island, New York. Do you want to talk to the name father? I don't do a very good Larry King. And by the way, I'm like 4 octaves lower right now because of the thing. Okay, so that is Silver and Gold by Phil Walker Harding. Something the name father really enjoyed. There was one that you didn't quite enjoy, Steve. And so, hey, we are all access on the show. So let's give it to us straight. What happened with the second one?
Well, it's a good game. It's a fine game. For the amount of time that it took and the amount of fiddling that it took with pieces, it didn't feel like the Indiana Jones in a box that we were promised. I liked it, but it was one that after having played it, I think I'd probably go to some other things to have that similar kind of an experience. It had an element of, there was dice rolling in it, so it had a little bit of a Indiana Jones instead of Arkham kind of feel. But you know, I gotta disagree with Eric on that one. I would go back and maybe edit my choices to whether Fortune and Glory won the day that week before when we were doing the Boudin Bowl. It was good.
That's right. It was again the Boudin Bowl
coming out, but
I forgot about that. It was part of the Boudin Bowl.
It was.
So that's a
it was
Flying
definitely
Frog
heavy, and there was a lot of stuff going on.
It's a Flying Frog production, and it's funny that you mentioned that because Carlos and I and Dave and I, we played a mixture of Euros. We tried to make Carlos play as many Euros as we could, but we would always go back to some good Ameritrash or thematic games. We spent a lot of time playing those too. And one of the topics that that we always talked about is some of those crazy Flying Frog games. So I haven't played Fortune Glory. The most I did was Jack and I were at Gen Con a couple of years ago, and we kind of moved the pieces around for a turn while they did a quick demo for us at Gen Con. But other than that, it looked pretty beer and pretzel-y. Yeah, no, that's a fair way to look at it. And at the end of the day, I thought it was, look back on it and say, that was a good game. But left me wanting a little bit more. For somebody who grew up, you know, going to the Indiana Jones movies in the movie theater, I was looking for more. I was looking for more of the theme. Yeah, so that is Fortune and Glory from Flying Frog Productions. And Steve, I'm getting some comments off screen that you are starting to lag pretty heavily on the show.
Put me on audio. That's fine.
I'm gonna send you back into the lobby. You can still hear the show, and then I'm gonna bring in. Well, actually, like you said, it was working fine when I had you on audio. So let me just move you down to audio, and then we're almost ready for our special guest. Hopefully, he's going to be coming in pretty soon. All right, Steve?
Sounds good.
BJ from Game Gumbo here. We are talking about some of the spicy games that I've got to play recently at Board Game Convention. I got a special guest coming tonight who's gonna show us off one of the games that I wanted to talk about. And really, I'm doing the show. I know that we didn't really broadcast it a lot because this is one that I really need to practice the new Be Live Studio 2, get me used to this thing. So before we have our special guest next week, we're going to have, actually, we're off next week. We may do another one of these test things, but the following week after that, we've got Marty and Tony coming in from Rolling Dice and Take Names. I want to make sure I have all that. So my convention highlights for BGG Con. If you have never been to BGG Con, of course, we're talking about Board Game Geek. There's two conventions, the spring one and the one in the fall. And I was fortunate enough to go up there with the Gumbo crew. I have volunteered for Cosmos before, and they asked me to come back and do some demoing and teaching. Take that, Bradley and Carlos. People are asking me to teach games. Actually, you know, I did okay. There was a couple I had, as we all do, we had to work through a couple of rules issues, but we had a lot of fun. So I want to shout out to the Team Cosmos out there, Tom and Courtney, who were, you know, working for Cosmos, but then the rest of the demo team, Jason and Benji and Mary, and of course, the Mississippi Meeples, I kept calling them. We had Stephanie and Maynard over there from Mississippi who came in to teach. This is their first big con and their first ever demoing. So that was, I remember back at PAX South 2017 working for Indie Boards and Cards, and you know, you get that big eyes where you're trying to figure things out like that. And it was pretty cool to see them see the same thing over there.
Game convention.
All right, we got our special guest coming in here. I'm gonna see if I can pull him up there. Hopefully, he can see me, and we're testing the new system. Jonny Pac. Jonny Pac, Jonny Pac. How's that, man? Can you see us?
I'm almost getting there. Just want to make sure that the other thing's not going at the same time. All right. Can you hear me okay?
Steve, can you still hear Jonny Pac?
I can, yeah.
Okay, perfect. Hey, Johnny, we're having a little lag problems with Steve, the name father. So he's down in the lobby, but he actually he's still up, but he's on audio only. But Jonny Pac, you have had a whirlwind of a year, and I'm glad to have you in. The last time we had it on the show, I just want to remind you, you actually called me from like a hotel off the interstate, trying to connect with us. Do you remember that?
Yeah, it was something like that. Yeah, it was a snowstorm, and I think I lost power, and I had to drive a half hour, 40 minutes, something, bolt into town, find internet, and just throw the laptop down. And you were already live, and I was out of breath. I'm like, I'm here. And it's funny. It's like there hasn't been any rain or snow in California for like months. It's been this crazy, terrible drought. And today there's a snowstorm. So, but luckily the power's on. So
you got the power going. So Jonny Pac, tell us about your con travels. You did make some cons. I saw you actually at Gen Con.
Yeah, I was brief at Gen Con. I had the craziest Gen Con. I had a long Facebook post about what happened. In the long short, I didn't sleep very much the whole time I was there due to my flight got funky and they left my luggage in the rain, so I had like soaking clothing and all this other stuff. And then finally I get into a hotel, and I kid you not, the hotel caught on fire at like 2 a.m. one night. Somebody threw a cigarette into the bush right outside my window, so the face of the building was all burning up, and I had to stand out there in the parking lot till dawn. And so I was very, very loopy from lack of sleep. So I think by the time I saw you, I'd been awake for more than 24 hours, and I was just I was like, hey, I know you from TV, right, bro?
You were sort of like a I hate to say it, but you were kind of a zombie at that point. You know,
yeah, I was. It was surreal. There was a lot of stuff kind of going by me. I was hanging out a lot with Kevin, who designed Calico, and I was just like, dude, I feel like this is weird. Sounds are coming and going. You guide me, bro.
I actually got to play Calico with Kevin, and I backed it on Kickstarter. I liked it so much. I think it's going to be a perfect gift for my wife and I to play as a 2-player game, because it seemed to play as good 2 or 3 or 4 as anything else. Steve, you're back up here, so I'm trying something a little different where I've got you guys on smaller screens, and it seems to keep the lag a little bit better with the smaller screen. So.
Cool. Thanks.
What else? Where else did you go, Jonny? Because I remember that the next convention you went to, I don't remember what it was, but you said, hey, no hotel issues, no fire alarms, luggage made it safe.
Yeah. So as far as big ones went, after that, I do a lot of the small conventions in California. So I do like PacificCon, and that I also do RageCon in the summer out here in Reno. But I went to ESSEN for the first time, so that was my other big trip of the year, and that was fantastic. So no drama. It was long flights and all the expected stuff getting there, but it was fantastic. I had a great time. Hey, there I am.
I hear that
got caught in the wild by Verla. Yeah,
I heard you got to meet our friend Verla LeBaron out there at Essen Spiel, right?
Yep. She caught me running around on the floor. Actually, it wasn't even at the booth because she came back and we played at this table where you're seeing there. But yeah, I was out. I think I was over at Pearl Games talking with Sebastian about Black Angel, and she's like, I know you. And
Jonny Pac, you're internet famous.
A little bit,
Think about it. So you're living in California, you're playing jazz music, you're 5,000 miles away, and a stranger walks up to you in Germany and says, I know you.
Yeah.
It's kind of surreal when you think about it, right?
Yeah, it's just our little Facebook group there with Chuck and the gang, and on here. So yeah, it's cool.
It's weird because Steve and Verla and I have never been in the same place at the same time. Someday it'll happen, right, Steve? but yet we talk the three of us talk almost every day.
Mm-hmm.
It is nice the way these things work. I actually went to her place. I think it's official now, right, Steve? We can talk about it.
I think she said, yeah, it's official, and the embargo's off.
Yeah. So, and I mean, it must be official because they were talking about it at BGG Con. But our friend Verla is now working for Funnigan. So she is in the board gaming industry and super excited about it. So I met her boss, Jeff, and them at the Funnigan booth at BGG Con. They had a cool little booth, Steve, a tiny little room with all of their stock that they flew first class, basically. I mean, that's the price of shipping. They brought back from Essen. So you could buy the Essen games. Like you can't even buy Aquatica right now anywhere. I can't find it anywhere other than used copies on BGG. But they had brand new copies that they flew over with them to come back. But I got to visit with Jeff, her boss, and behind the stock, they had set up 4 or 6 tables with some of the best Euros that have come back from Essen, and you could just play them for free. So
that's awesome. Yeah. I remember that from when I went to BGG a couple of years ago. The morning that the Funnigan booth opened up, the line was up the stairs and around the corner and around in a big spiral. And there's definitely stuff where it's like,
what was the hot game that they were looking for that year? Do you remember?
By the time I made it to the booth, Santa Maria was gone. Okay. There's none of that. So that was Gentes, I hope I'm saying it right, had come out by Spielworks before TMG deluxeified it. That's what I was going for. I was watching the pile shrink, and I got one of them from the bottom of that, and then I got wind that they're deluxifying it. So I played it, loved it, hawked it, and then bought the deluxified one. So that was hot. And trying to think what else was hot that year. Wasn't particularly through them that was hot, but that's also when Pulsar came out, and I went over to Czech Game Edition, got to play that with the crew there, and that was the star of the show for me. And Rajas of the Ganges came out over at R&R.
I saw both of those played at BGG Con. They're still being played. I saw more of Pulsar than I did of Rajas, but there were people playing the expansion for Rajas, checking out of the library. So there were a lot of people doing that.
Really? Yeah, that there's something hung up at Essen and you couldn't get it there. Everybody's excited about it, and I don't know if it got hung up in customs or what, but it was like one of those, oh, did you hear the goodie box didn't make it? And everybody's like, oh, where is it? When can I get it? So I'm not sure the status on that now, but definitely cool.
They had copies there. Like, the library is so big. I don't know if you guys heard the news. They had a contest at BGG Con. Just take a guess, wild guess. The guy that brings it around is a trucker. He went to a weigh station and weighed the truck with and without the BGG Con library. How much do you think it weighs? Just take a guess.
Oh my God.
Steve?
It's, jeez.
Anything? Throw it out there.
3,000 pounds.
3,000 pounds. That's pretty heavy.
It's got to be more than that. I'm going to say 6,000 pounds. I'll double down on you.
19,900 pounds.
Oh, gosh.
That's almost 10 tons of cardboard and wood meeples. Can you imagine?
Yeah.
19,900 pounds. And by the way, the winner had it. It was 19,990 pounds. And the winner had guessed 19,980 or something like that, or 20,000, because he was within 10 pounds of the actual answer. Oh
my gosh! Wow.
Didn't play one game at the convention, just calculated the whole time.
That's it. He's just kind of picking it up and going, that's a little heavier than last one. I'm going to add another 2 kilo. Yeah, that library is really impressive. I love the new digs, Jonny Pac. You're going to love the new hotel. The new hotel is just fantastic. Plenty of open gaming. But also there was plenty of just quiet gaming. People were playing games all over, sort of like you see at Gen Con in the hotels, but even more. So. Yeah. Sure, there just seemed to be even more room. You could even play out on the deck. So
that's cool.
It was really pretty nice. So ESSEN Spiel, is it something we should do?
I was just going to say, hear about if Johnny was saying it was the first ESSEN. Let's hear about that.
Yeah.
In contrast to these conventions, it's not a players convention. So 7:00, and they get you out of there, and that's that. And there aren't a lot of just open gaming, all night gaming. It's not like there's a hotel full of werewolf going all night that's readily available. At least I know about. People wanted to get demos of games. The demos were a lot longer. Like, for instance, when we were doing Coloma, the demo was 1 hour. And then you get a 1 hour session. We were doing 1 hour sessions of Merchant's Cove. Fistful of Meeples was faster, so we were able to do that in under an hour. But so a lot of people would play a good portion of a game, which was interesting to me because, that's the heart of the Euro game thing. And a lot of times you can't see the arc of a Euro game in 10 minutes, 20 minutes. Your engines just don't fire off. The scoring doesn't happen. And it was neat to see that they were given their due time. Like, in an hour, you can kind of foreshadow what's probably going to happen. The people conducting the demos would a lot of times kind of fast forward you. Hey, at the end of the game, you would have gotten points for this, this, and this, and it would have shook out this way. So I thought that was really cool that there was like a patience required to do this. Even think about like an elevator pitch. How do you pitch a Euro game? Versus a party game, it's like you're not going to actually corner a publisher in an elevator, pitch it very well because too many nuances. And so I noticed that. The other thing that was really surprising to me was the size of it. It's huge. It's like, I don't know, 6 times the size of Gen Con as far as the showroom floors go. There's population density is huge. You're right up next to people, but you never really have to raise your voice. Like, Gen Con is like loud. You get a sore throat after the first day and you're barking orders and it's just frenetic. And this was like, you're just in this sea of people, but it's tranquil and smooth and collected. And
what's the difference, you think? We Americans are just loud, boorish people?
Maybe it might be. I noticed the other thing is airports were kind of the same way, like going flying into Germany and stuff. So it just might be that, it might be the fact that a lot of people are speaking a lot of different languages to each other. So they're, kind of doing this little thing instead of barking across the room from each other. It just seemed to be a very much more people aware of their surroundings and the impact that they're having on it. And you'd go up and you'd start to talk to somebody. And of course you had to see if there was language barrier, and then you'd find how fast or slow and how you could drive to communicate and stuff like that. So I think overall it leads to a fairly peaceful experience. It just wasn't the craziness you'd expect of 7 times Gen Con. Wasn't 7 times crazier. So it was really, it was neat. I'm so bad at languages that it's like I just didn't even try. So luckily I had friends around me and stuff like that, and we're just like, all right. So I was with the whole crew that was working at Final Frontier is British, and then we had which is Macedonian. So our whole troop was just.
We were talking about that. We were talking about that in the Gumbo this weekend. So the Final Frontier group, it's a Macedonian company, correct?
Yeah.
And it seems like all of the art is from the Micho. Is he tied in with them, or how does that work? Or is he just their preferred artist?
So yeah, they're I want to say they're a couple hours away from each other, something like that. So they do know each other in person and see each other, so that kind of thing. So I think there is that personal relationship that they have there, and of course they can communicate to each other in their language and all that. So there's probably less of that formality in the art direction where you have to say, hey, here's this, and email and go down. They can probably express in a quick way. And I know that it seems like he prioritizes their work a bit. So he's done some favors where like we need something on the flip, and like it's done in the morning. He's incredibly fast and
Did you
responsive.
Get to meet him?
I haven't yet. So he didn't come out to the show. As far as what I've read, interviews and stuff, he's a bit of a workaholic and tends to just work around the clock, and that's probably why he's the volume of his output is so tremendous. So I guess he's got a home basement studio and a wife, kids upstairs, whatever, and does kind of a family man thing, and then just works like crazy around the clock. And I've also seen he collects a lot of really cool stuff. He's got like action figure collection that's just enormous, comic books, all that. So so I don't know if he goes to conventions much.
So thumbs up though. Thumbs up on going to ESSEN Spiel.
A little frozen there.
Hey, can you see me? Steve, do you see me?
I can still see you.
Okay.
You, Johnny?
Did I freeze on you guys? Sorry.
Yeah, you're still there, Johnny.
You're still there. Can you hear us?
Yep, I hear you now. Yeah, sorry it froze on my end a little bit.
So thumbs up for ESSEN. You would do it again?
Yeah, I love it. It was fantastic. I think the other thing is it's maybe not a players convention, but as far as a shoppers convention is concerned, even though it's in euros and you got to ship stuff back or haul it back, next year I brought a large suitcase inside of a large suitcase this last time, and I brought back a lot of stuff, and I had a box shipped back. Next year, what I'll do is I'll bring a really large suitcase inside another one, and actually probably just pay the additional fee to have a checked baggage come in, because that's actually cheaper than mailing it back and more reliable.
Shipping, right? Yeah.
Shipping was crazy. So, but that's the thing. I mean, the stuff you can get or can't get is incredible.
Just make sure you pick up games this size, right?
I know. I did get a lot of small games, a lot of expansions, a lot of little promos and things like that, which you can't get here. So
Steve, I got a story for you. Jonny Pac was kind enough to send us a copy of Fistful Meeples. We're gonna be playing it tomorrow night, and we're gonna be doing a review on it. The problem is that DHL couldn't get it to us in time for BGG Con, because I wanted to show it to a couple of publisher friends I knew. It's already been signed. It's already been published. It's with Final Frontier. But I know you're looking for some German localizations, I think.
Yeah, we're looking for that, yeah.
And so while I was there, I had some time, and my convention thing is a regular thing. I'm in bed before midnight, usually midnight, maybe 11:30. I am in bed, and I'm up at 6 o'clock every morning. Get my 6 hours of sleep. I'm fresh. I'm ready to go. But Dave Dugas and Carlos Roy kept me up every single night playing Detective City of Angels. It's phenomenal. Oh my God, this game is so good. It was addicting. I'm normally one of these guys who play as many games as possible, just rolling through it. I think I think we calculated about 11 hours we spent on this game.
Oh my gosh, that's a ton.
11 hours. 11 hours. We played 4 full scenarios.
Holy smokes.
Yeah, and with every play count from 3, 4, and 5, we grabbed strangers.
When you were posting about it, you said, "Hey, I'm playing Detective City of Angels," and I said, "Oh, how is it?" He's like, "Wait a second, I'm almost done with the first play," and then he'll tell me after that. And I asked him again afterwards, "Are you done yet?" He said, "Yeah, now we're on the second play. I'll tell you again." Just went right into the next.
We went back to back to back with 3 plays, and then played it again the next night. But the problem that I had is the next morning I had checked out because I saw Fistful of Meeples was in the library, so I checked it out, and I'm gonna teach it myself, just by myself, early in the morning. This is like 7:30 or 8. I'm right across from the Funnigan's booth. There's a nice little area, a real quiet area to play. No one there in the morning, and I've set it all up, and I'm trying to get it learned. And Johnny, man, I just couldn't grok it with that little brain. Tom Vassell walks by and he says, "Wow, you look terrible." You look terrible. And I said, "Tom, I haven't gotten any sleep." And he's the same way. He's the kind of guy that goes to bed at 10 or 11 o'clock, gets up early, looks for people to play. So instead we played Babylonia, the new.
Oh yeah.
I say new. It's, it's Reiner Knizia taking some of his mechanics from Through the Desert or Blue Lagoon. And what's the other one?
Maybe Samurai?
Tigers and Euphrates.
Okay.
Kind of mashing them up together, and that's what you get is Babylonia. Really cool game. But I just said, Tom, I'm just gonna. In fact, if you remember, I texted you and said, "Hey, look, let's talk about this game later." Well, the story is, I was talking to him about it. I said, "Hey, why don't you come on the show and tell everyone how to play Fistful of Meeples?" Because I've been talking to other people who said the game is very intuitive, pretty easy to play, but offers a lot of deep stuff going on even in just a 30-minute game. So you've got a copy, right?
Yeah. I got my copy I picked up at ESSEN, and then they shipped me another little case of them, so I've got a few
So
around.
I can just throw this away?
Well, I don't know about that, but I might teach you wrong.
No, hopefully not.
No.
All right, so everybody out there in the chat crews, Jonny Pac's going to give us a quick demo, a little, if you were demoing it at ESSEN, how would you do that?
Yeah, I did a few demos there, so I'd kind of split my time. I was mostly doing relief for the different games, so I taught some Coloma or Merchant's Cove or whatever else. I've got it set up down here, and see if I can get enough light to angle my laptop.
Steve, I'm going to solo down to Jonny Pac so he can show us the game. Hopefully that's going to work.
Okay, I'm going to see if I can get this angled enough. I'm going to tilt my screen down, and maybe you can see the thing a little bit, at least to.
Oh yeah, there we go.
Yeah, you can peek at my wall of games. Well, one of my walls. No.
Nice, Johnny.
Okay. Oh, that's crazy. It's an addiction. All right. So, yeah, if that works for you, I'll kind of talk through a little bit of it. So, as far as setup goes, there's a bunch of little buildings out here. Now, this game was inspired by Mancala, and probably more so than other Mancala derivative games in that it actually has the same amount of pits and spaces as a traditional Mancala game, or one of the traditional ones, and the overall shape of the thing is very much like this. So you could just imagine these would be recessed wells, and you'd have a bunch of stones or whatever it is that you'd play. So that was the kind of inspiration. I was playing some Mancala, and I was like, hey, you know what? I live in the western town. We got these main streets that are always tight, and then on either side you got these buildings. And what if we took a bunch of little cowboy meeples and were to move them around in a Mancala fashion, and then they did stuff. And beyond that, I didn't really know what it would do. And so I just laid it out that way and just started moving meeples around, and things started to make sense. Like, oh, what if this guy was a robber and that was a gold miner and that was a sheriff, and started playing out these kind of thematic scenarios. So that's what you got down here. So basically we've got all these little buildings, and they got little marquees on them, and there's 12 of those in the main circuit. We've randomly drawn from the bag at setup 3 random meeples and placed them into each of these spots as their starting positions. There's some gold over here. These are gold bars that are in the bank. We've got the madam, which is a little meeple in a dress over here in the saloon.
Nice.
It's also up there on the cover. There's a jail over here, and it's got little dynamite cubes next to it. There's a bag, and this is filled with same size cubes. This is all little 8mm cubes, and they're gold and stone in there. And there's a distribution where there's mostly gold and there's some stone in that bag. a couple dice, and then what we've got is these little marquees. It's kind of like the facades that are on the western building. Is as you say build a building, in this case, these buildings are already built. Say what you're doing is you're taking over and opening a business thematically in these spots. So you would place these on the fronts of the buildings to show that this is controlled by me, the orange player, and then these would be the green player's facades. And this plays up to 4, so there's enough for everybody. And on the back, they've got little stripes on them so you can tell which side is the front and the back. That's the upgrade side. A couple of normal dice, and then we've got shootout tokens, which there we go. So it's got little pistols on it, and you'll be sometimes placing those out on the board to mark if there's a gunman that you're working in your favor. So as far as play goes, at the start of your turn, you pick any of the buildings, and you're going to kind of like Five Tribes or McCall or anything like that. You'll pick them up, and then you're going to decide where they go, and you'll just breadcrumb them around in the way. Now, some Mancala games is only counterclockwise, only clockwise. One of the things here is you can pick either direction you'd like to move your meeples.
I thought that was pretty cool either way, and it emphasizes that in the rule book.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because it's one of those things where I think I'm not sure where the tradition came from for going one direction, but it definitely would alleviate maybe analysis paralysis if you had to think of the ramifications of moving 17 little stones around in a traditional Mancala. But here we do have a slightly smaller distribution of these things. It's not going to pool up where you have to do 17 stones and then wonder where you're going to end up. It's usually 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 meeples at a time, a moderate fistful. So if we were to choose something we could do, say I decide to grab these ones, and then there's a little doorway spots at the front of these. So in case I wanted to do take backsies, go, wait a second, that's not the order I want to put these in, I would still know which ones I'm actively using. So if this were the case, and I placed those 3 meeples going this direction from where I started, that would be my placement phase. Now I'd simply go into a resolve phase, in which case I would resolve any of these 3 buildings I place meeples at in any order I choose. And the order might matter because maybe I'll get resources at one and be able to spend them at the other, and so forth. At this point, we would look at the different types of meeples and how they interact. And so little red robber meeples rob gold from little yellow miner meeples. So this guy would enter and stick them up, say, hey, give me your gold. And what you do at that point is you just draw from the bag 2 pieces, and you get to keep those. So in this case, he robbed a stone from him and a gold from him. So the active player would keep those. Now here's a little deputy, he's a little blue guy. He's going to come in and bust these robbers which are already in this building. And so when that one goes in there, these little red robbers are going to go directly to the jail cell. So they're kind of out of game temporarily. Okay. And as a reward, you'd collect by drawing again stuff out of the bag, which is mostly how you're going to be getting things in this game. And so there's a little reward there. And now I've collected a decent amount of resources. This last little meeple is a builder. There's a lot of these in the game. When they enter a building, you may spend the cost that's printed on the board here. This particular building shows it takes 3 stone to place a marquee there, or it takes 3 stone to upgrade one. Now I just happen to not have 3 stone. I have 2 stone and some gold. So in this case, this one wouldn't be able to upgrade that. Now, had I drawn a 3rd stone, I could have spent that and upgraded my building. In this case, I'd say, okay, I'm done, and I pass. And then play would go clockwise to the next player. So then that player would, again, look at the whole board. It really, again, they could even take them out of my building because none of the meeples really belong to any given player. So they would pick up some meeples and go do some stuff. And let's take another quick example of what we might be looking at here. So if they were to take these ones and place them, say, coming down here. Now this last meeple, this one's going to enter the a shootout spot. So right here at the end of the street, you see little pistols. And I put that green player's little pistol marker underneath that meeple. And that's going to show that that meeple's going to stay there until another meeple's on this side of town, in which case they'll do a little roll-off. And one of those meeples is going to stay and go to the saloon, and the other one's going to go to the graveyard and be out of play. So we would resolve these things. This one would go over here and bust the robber, get some reward. This one would go in there. Say they had enough to build. They take the option to then place the building and then own that building. Play would continue. Another player would eventually come around on this other side, and they would end up with a meeple, say out here, and say it was a showdown. And during the resolve phase, the players would just roll dice to see who's going to live and who's going to not, in this case. So they'd roll, say that the red robber is rolling over there, and we got the little yellow miners rolling over here, and we rolled a 2 and a 2. There's a hierarchy printed on the board here showing that robbers are a better shot than miners, and deputies are a better shot than robbers, and so on. And in this case of a tie, this one would be the one that goes to the graveyard and sits on the little gravestone, and this would be the one that goes to the saloon. That would resolve the graveyard, and then there's a little reward printed there saying if you've gunned down a miner, you draw X amount of reward from the bag. So that's one of the systems in the game, is the little shootout thing. So in short, what you'd be doing is moving meeples around to try to get stuff out of that bag, which is going to be your stone and your gold. You'll be investing that into properties and upgrading properties, which are worth points. And they also gain you resources when the miners enter your building, which is one of the main things. So in this case, if I own this building, miner enters it, I would then draw X, however much this little marquee says. A basic side would say draw 2. Another couple of side mechanics are at the end of your turn, if you've got enough gold to acquire a gold bar from the bank, you would turn those into the bag. And when you do that, you'd simply return these to the bag, and then this is worth 10 points, where an individual nugget is worth 1 point. So you're basically doing kind of an upgrade where you can't spend these to buy buildings and stuff. They're just worth points. But they're worth more points than the little ones alone. So you're doing a slow conversion into gold bars.
I missed that. Oh, that's interesting, Johnny.
Yeah, so kind of what that does is there's a little ratio right here. So the first bar that's taken only takes 6 gold nuggets. So effectively you're getting a 10-point thing for 6 points thrown in. And then the next one is still 6, then it's 7. And then these require 8 in order to get those. And these will be distributed amongst the players. That's one of the end game triggers. And that's compulsory. At the end of your turn, you must turn in the gold if you have the gold. So you can't just hoard it all and deplete the bag and make it real crazy. The other end trigger is that if there's 6 of those little shootouts and all those graves get filled up, that ends the game. Okay. And the last trigger, which is a little more uncommon, is you can do a jailbreak in this game. If you want to get all those robbers out of jail, you have to throw a dynamite cube in the bag. So you just chuck that in there, and you take these meeples out, and you'll start from wherever you want to, and then continue doing the Moncala thing. So in this case, if I said I want to start right here, I start that, and then I must place adjacent, and then I would resolve. There's nobody there. I say rob that guy, get the resources, and that would be a jailbreak. Now, if this little dynamite gets drawn on a subsequent turn by somebody, everybody must put back half their gold, or not their gold, excuse me, half their stone goes back in the bag. So gold bars will kind of return the gold nuggets to the bag, and then the occasional dynamite will return some of the surplus stone to the bag. And of course, as players spend those to buy buildings, they get returned to the bag. So you see kind of a ebb and flow of those pieces coming and going from the bag through those systems. So if there's 3 jailbreaks and 3 dynamite events, that also ends the game. So there's three triggers, and at that point you would total up your points. You'd look, every gold nugget you've got left is 1 point, every gold bar is 10, and then each marquee is worth 5 as printed on it, or if it's upgraded, it's worth 10. So in this case, if I had 1 gold nugget, this piece, and this marquee, I'd just go, okay, there's 10, 20, 21 points. Typical game is somewhere between 40 to 60 points. So you can kind of see between properties, gold nuggets, and gold bars and all that, you can kind of mill together a pretty good amount of points in the game.
And that's a Fistful of Meeples. It's published by Final Frontier, right?
Yeah.
With art from the Meat Show, and of course designed by our Gateway and Filler Games group buddy, Jonny Pac.
Yeah, hopefully that made sense.
Yeah, it actually did. It did make sense. What do you think, Steve?
Looks good.
Looks like a good little game to start the game night, play the end of the night, or even play 2 or 3 times. Because a lot of times, Steve, you and I, we talk about that. You can play filler games or gateway games or short little 30 to 40-minute games a couple of times, and that gives you that, oh, let me try this new strategy here this time. Let me try focusing on the robbers or focusing on the gunfights, right?
Sure. Yeah. It can go pretty quick. There's kind of like 2 ways you could look at it. It's like if you're playing 2-player, you could really get all chess-like about it and really think about, this is a good move for me, but am I setting up a good move for you? And you could play kind of cutthroat, but there's still a little bit of random in it. That there is some dice and there's a drawing from the bag. So you're kind of thinking about probabilistically, am I giving somebody Yeah,
Verla's reminding you she beat you 74 to 47.
True. Oh, she stopped me. So you're kind of doing that, or you can kind of play fast and loose because it is still kind of probabilistic. If you just go like, hey, this is probably good for me on average to draw more things and invest in more things in general, and you can play fast and loose that way and just go, hey, I'm gonna enter the shootout. This guy's got a higher chance of survival than this one, greater reward. And kind of wing it. And I like to play it fast like that. Obviously, I don't always win, but thematically, I feel like that's kind of a fun tempo to take the game at. Or you can slow it down and be more calculated with your process. But it really plays either way.
And that is Fistful of Meeples by Jonny Pac, published by Final Frontier Games. Steve and I were talking before the show or off the air. I mean, about a game that this is the kind of game that would fit well after or before while you're waiting for the Thanksgiving meal. So, Jonny Pac, do you have your personal favorites? Do you guys get together for Thanksgiving? That would be a cool name though for your big party. Do you have a personal favorite that you guys like to play? Or we can let Steve go first if you got an idea for one.
Yeah, either way. Yeah, I could jump in. So the half the family that I visit on Thanksgiving tends to be the gamer half, which is my father. So he actually was very much into Euro games back when you had to get them from Germany pretty much, or Funnigan would bring some stuff over. And a lot of the games he had all had English translations that were done badly on BGG 15 years ago, right? And so a couple of our favorites, one was when Days of Wonder first published Colosseum. That's been a favorite, and it plays a pretty high player count, and it's kind of one of those middleweight games. And so that's been one of our go-tos, even at family events, is to play a good game of Colosseum. And believe it or not, the other one that we play a lot was Endeavor, because it plays a pretty large player count, and it's like.
Well, I played it at 5. Does it play bigger? I played it at 4. I'm sorry, I haven't played it at 5.
But still, 5 for a Euro game. It's like you look at the shelves; there just aren't that many, and we could at the end of the night take the 5 most serious players and play Endeavor and enjoy ourselves. The other strange one is Lancaster. So you can guys see how the family is. It's like probably Colosseum, Lancaster, and Endeavor. It's like
everybody else is falling asleep with turkey and the cranberry sauce, and these guys are deep into Lancaster. Or if you're in Pennsylvania, you'd say Lancaster. But
Lancaster, yeah, right.
That's a pretty heavy Euros for after Thanksgiving. Steve, do you have something if we overstuffed on fried turkey?
Wow.
Do you have a game for that?
Ours goes in entirely a different direction. For Thanksgiving for us this year, we're walking down the street to friend's house, 2 families of 4, but only 2 of us, for the most part, gamers. So there may be 1 or 2 2-player games that I bring so that Jake and I'll sit down and play something while others are doing other things. But to bring 6, 7, 8 of us to the table, it's going to have to be something smaller, get in, get out.
Sure.
For my wife, for example, she wants a game that's very low teach, and so something along the lines of more of a medium or concept or llama, or something that does not require a whole lot of rules discussion. Jump right into it, and you can play it as long or as little as you like. And then when we get sick of it, we move back to the island and have more snacks and what have you. Sit down and play a different one.
Steve, we lost Jonny Pac there, but we'll keep going with our list. Yeah, hopefully we can get him right back. He may have just logged out for a second there. I like your idea. I would love to be at a Thanksgiving feast where right after that we move right into games like Colosseum, because that would be a blast. Especially on a lazy afternoon when the kids are outside playing and people are taking a nice nap and you're off in the corner and you're visiting and you're thinking and you're talking about a game. It'd be pretty good.
It would be. It might be a day after thing for me.
It might be.
You have the sleep and recovery, and then now everyone else is doing their Black Friday stuff. Let's sit down around the table for something we know we can really dig in.
I'm looking at the chat crew. Hey, chat crew, if you got some suggestions, we want to hear them. What's that after Thanksgiving meal? So my family would be more like yours. My nephews are big, heavy Euro gamers. They'd be happy with playing Terra Mystica after Thanksgiving. But for the most part, the rest of the family is going to want to play something light and something not too heavy. And one of those that we played at BGG Con was The Crew. Die Crew raced gamers and Zoom. 9 Planetum. And I think what it is
You nailed it.
yeah, I did not at all. But and then we got Jonny Pac coming back in. Jonny Pac, we're talking about some of the games that we might play at our household. I've got some nephews that would just die to play Terra Mystica. You would be right in with them playing any kind of a Euro. But I think in my family, we'd probably play The Crew, or Die Crew as it's called over in Journey. The Search for Planet 9 is coming out Q2 from Cosmos in America. They are really trying to get some printing out because this, I don't know about ESSEN, but at BGG Con, it's the one game that everybody was talking about. There wasn't like a breakout hit at BGG Con, but if there were, if there had been copies of The Crew, I think it would have been the breakout hit because there were always people looking for a copy to borrow.
Wow.
And we only had, I think, 1 or 2 copies in the entire convention. They had the 1 or 2 in the library and the one that Tom had from Cosmos, but they were just always playing.
Wow.
You know
I don't know about that.
Johnny, do you know anything about it?
No, that's new to me.
So The Crew is a trick-taking game, cooperative though, for 3, 4, or 5 players. But think the mind. You don't get to know what the other players, what they have, and more importantly than that, it starts with a very simple mission. There's 50 in the box. And it starts with a very simple mission. You're a crew searching for the planet that's going to replace Pluto as the 9th planet. To do that, you have to learn to work together and cooperate. How do you do that? You win a single trick. Here's the trick. It might, if it's the 3 of us playing, it might be Johnny that has to win the trick. And we know what it is. It's the 3. Let's say, and there are colors in the game, but for those who haven't played the game, let's say it's 3 of spades, right? That's not what the game. They use colors, but let's say it's a 3 of spades, and that's all you have to do to win. Well, Steve says that's easy. I'll just play the 9 of spades. I'll play the 8 of spades. Johnny, you've got the 3 of spades. You throw it out there. We win the first trick. And then move to the second mission. And now it's 2 tricks. And then 3 tricks. And then it's 4 tricks, but you have to win this one in order and this one last. And then it just gets harder and harder. And you can't communicate. You can't tell them what cards you have. The only thing you do is give 1 hint. You can flip a card face up and say if you have 1 only in the deck, if it's your highest in the deck of that suit, or the lowest. And that is it. Now think in terms of 4 or 5 tricks with complicated instructions, and you can't even give a hint. It is diabolical.
That sounds fun.
That is The Crew from Cosmos Games. So, you know, it's one of those things where when we were talking about all 3 of us like trick-taking games. I'm terrible at them. But it was one of those things where we were thinking, cooperative trick-taking? How's that even going to work? But it does.
Right. That sounds cool. So my favorite kinds of co-ops are that kind of a game where it's lighter, limited communication type co-op, and right in that vein. So I enjoy the mind. I like Magic Maze, Hanabi, that kind of co-op. So this is right up my alley. I think that'd be a lot of fun.
And that's The Crew from Cosmos.
For some of my family, when I have to explain a game, the idea of limited communication is good.
Okay.
Less and we play more, that's a good thing. My wife loved playing Mysterium so long as I was the ghost.
and that's The Crew from Cosmos Games. BJ from Board Game Gumbo, and we're talking about post-Thanksgiving games. I got one more for you. I have not got to play it, but I'm looking forward to playing it this week. Oh, and I see Steve that Verla says, hey, have you played Point Salad? Might be perfect after turkey.
That sounds good.
And the one I'm talking about is one that's coming out from Social Sloth Games. Should be out pretty soon. Draw your own conclusions. It's by Jay Cormier, one of the Bamboozle brothers. I'm not sure, Jonny Pac, if you know Jay. Jay's got a bunch of games like Belfort and a bunch of other games like that.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah. Jay Cormier. Yep. So he's got a party game, and it looks like a gamer's version of a party game. So that got me a little excited. Everybody's got a clue, a la Just One, and everybody's got a score pad. A drawing pad, and you can draw the clue, but you can only use the symbol that you've been given. Maybe it's a circle, maybe it's an X, maybe it's a heart, whatever's on that screen there. You write that down, and then you pass it to the left. And then they try to draw whatever that clue is using only the symbol that they've been given. And then once everybody's made a drawing, and all you can do is draw a moon or a circle or an X, So there's no artistic ability needed. If you can draw a triangle, you can play this game. The real fun is when it gets back to you, you're staring at this mess of hieroglyphics in some kind of shape, and it's cooperative again, like Just One is, and everyone has 3 tries to try to figure out what everyone was giving them as a hint.
Interesting.
Wow.
Pretty cool as a party game,
yeah.
and yet it's still got some gamer. It's still not
Mhm.
necessarily mass market. It would appeal to mass market, but it would still be fun for us gamers.
That sounds
That
good.
reminds me. So it's a little derivative of telephone, right? Wouldn't that be the kind of the idea that as things go around the circle, they get more and more shady and
They get lost. So
Yeah.
take the way I heard it described was take telestrations and take telephone and smash
Mhm.
them together, and
Okay.
and that's what you get. Because what starts out, what you're looking at. I'm going to draw a couple of X's here, and I'm going to give it to Johnny, and then
Mhm.
Johnny's going to add his circle. But by the time it gets to Steve, all the way around the end, he's looking at it going, "What are they trying to draw?"
Okay.
So it gets lost in the translation. And of course, everybody's got a different word. So
Mhm.
we're all trying to figure out what those words are. But that is
Mhm.
that is draw your own conclusions from Social Sloth Games. Haven't got a chance to play it. I've read the rules, kind of familiarized myself. I'm looking forward to playing it after
Right.
Thanksgiving.
Yeah, I remember seeing the name of that when he was posting on Facebook, and I almost thought it was a joke because there's that old movie, Office Space, where the guy's like, "Hey, I've got this idea, jump to conclusions," right? And so it's just like him being a comedian. I wasn't even sure if that was serious, but that's cool.
Where's
It's
my
actually a
stapler?
good game
Where's
behind
my
it.
stapler? Where's my stapler? Do you have a stapler? TPS reports. I love that Office Space movie. That's a good one.
Yeah, exactly.
Any other last minute games for after Thanksgiving? Oh, there's Mark Rhodes says Letter Jam. Now I know that was played a lot at Essen, but I haven't played it yet. Jonny Pac, have you played it?
No, I briefly saw it at Gen Con, but I didn't get a chance to play it. So.
The version that I would like to play is the one that Paul Grogan teaches. The one that the Dragon's Tomb teaches, where you actually have, strawberry jam coming out of the cards. I don't know if you've seen that joke video that he did. It's a box, and he filled the box of letter jam with actual strawberry jam.
Oh my gosh.
Jam dripping all over the cards. Oh, that guy, whoever he is, that Dragon's Tomb guy, he's really got a good sense of humor.
Oh my gosh. Yeah.
That
reminds me of the old banana peel in the box of Vasco da Gama that Vassal had back in the day.
So, funny story about Tom. After we played that other game, we're walking into the library, and I'm telling him about my love of Watergate, and he says, "Watergate, have you played Blitzkrieg yet?" And I never even heard of it. And he said,
right.
and he points it out to me. He says, "If you liked Watergate, you ought to try it." And I look at it, I go, I said, "Tom, that's by Paolo. That's you threw his game off the roof, and now you're telling me to play another game by him." But I love Libertalia. And I got to play this. This has nothing to do with Vasco da Gama, nothing to do with Libertalia. It's just if you like Watergate and that tug of war that Watergate has, Blitzkrieg is similar to. It's not the same game, and Watergate's a better game, but it's similar to it. And if you want to play World War II in 20 minutes, you could do Blitzkrieg. So that's an interesting one. She says, Verla says, they're going to be playing Space, and Orleans after, and maybe even playing Quacks at Quedlinburg. That would be a good game for after Thanksgiving.
Yeah, good old Quacks. I love it. I really enjoyed Taverns of Tiefenthal, so I got to play that a couple times now, and I think that's a fun game, and I wouldn't mind showing that to my family, and I feel like it's intuitive enough in a lot of ways too.
It was very, very popular in the hot games room at BGG, and I never could get on. It was either always busy. I don't know, Johnny. I mean, I don't even know much about it other than that it's the same designer, and it's sort of like the successor for Quacks. What do you know about it?
So obviously it's the same publisher, same designer, and Dennis Luhausen did the artwork. Who, I'm a huge fan of his work. He's one of those artists like Clemens Franz that just can take the UI of the game and the artwork and just tie them together perfectly in so many ways. And Quacks does that. Obviously, the little candle flame jumping from spot to spot, the rat tails over the scoring track, that kind of art direction and mechanics just humming like that together is I love that. And this game has a lot of that in it too. So like there's a push your luck element in this one where you own a tavern and you have patrons come in and you have only so many bar stools or seats, tables that you're filling up. So every time you draw a card with a patron, you have to assign them to one of these seats. Now you might draw an extra table, and therefore it will allow you to be able to sustain taking another customer card. And at some point, you'll kind of bust where you can't seat anybody, and you stop drawing cards. So depending on what's in your deck, you might be able to get, I don't know, 8 or 10 cards out. You might be able to fill all these tables. An extra table comes out. These people sit next to each other. This guy's going to go out back and brew up some beers. You got a dishwasher down here. And you get this whole tableau just kind of spilling out of your deck. And then you go, okay, cool. That's going to set the stage for what all my possibilities are. But what those spaces are really is dice placement spots, like a worker placement. So you've only set the stage, and then you draft dice by putting them on little coffee coasters around the table, doing a very simple draft, kind of like sushi, Phil Walker Harding's game, the sushi game. So you're taking dice. You don't re-roll them in between shifting, so you just pass the dice around, pass. And once you've gotten your dice, you do a dice placement game. So you place a 5 on a place that can activate with a 5 and this and that, and you'll place all your dice. And this will generate you resources like drinks and sometimes just straight victory points, money, this, that, the other thing. And you'll take that to build your deck, because it's a deck builder, and or upgrade your tavern. And just about everything in the game is double-sided. So you could say, I want to be able to produce more beer. So you flip over the beer making thing, and it's like twice as good. You might, extend this part, extend that. So you're literally kind of like this dollhouse thing. You're just making it better and upgrading all these little parts, which are worth points. And so that can facilitate more and better cards that come in. Or you can really focus on your deck and just have better customers that have more efficient outputs for when they sit at your table. They give you a lot more for your buck, right? So between those things, you're just, doing that. And I don't know. So I say you want to do that like 8 or 10 times. It's only that many rounds. So you start off, you do that, you bust, you resolve dice, you upgrade some stuff. Start player goes. There's a little small event in between. Rinse, repeat, and you do that, and it just has this really sweet engine building thing. And then tally up your victory points, which is all kind of like Dominion. You'll all your points are going to be in your deck, so you'll just take all the cards that are valuable and count up the sum, and the winners with the most points there. So
I'm hearing some difference from Quack, so it's something I'm interested in. Steve,
yeah.
I'm very, very interested. Hoping to get that played at PAX. It sounds like it's got a lot of different moving modular parts. Does it feel like it comes together?
It does. And it's funny is that you mentioned that is there's a lot of modular content that you can add into the game. It's almost like it has a bunch of expansions. So at first you're just operating the bar with these very basic things, and you can flip this thing over and play with it on this other side. Now you can serve schnapps, and you can bring in this other type of customer that's a jester that blows fire, and he does something special. So you can scale the complexity of the game pretty significantly by how many of these little micro expansions you bake into it. But they're really well thought out. That it's almost like here's the core game and here's the expansion, and they fit in like perfect, like literally like little teeth will fit in between the gaps of where another expansion is. It just doesn't feel bolted on. It feels integrated, but somehow they extracted that to make a simpler game for barrier to entry, lower that down. So
and that is Taverns of Tiefenthal that we should see out from North Star Games pretty soon if it's not out already.
Yeah, I think it's just come out. You can get it now through North Star. I think in UK it came out directly from the publisher, and then in Europe it's been out for a bit. So yeah, I think it's everywhere now. Yeah, it's really good.
All right, so that's it for another Gumbo Live. I want to thank my guest Jonny Pac for coming in. Of course, Steve, the name father. Big shout out to some of the Iowa people that we got to play at BGG Con. Checking out a new podcast, the Board Boys podcast. We ended up playing games with them. They are big Euro fans, Johnny and Steve. So if you ever run into them, look into them. Rob from them taught me to try Carry On, a game I've been wanting to play. So that was a blast. That was really. Hey, Jonny Pac, what's up next for you guys? And how can people reach you if they have any questions about Fistful of Meeples or Sierra West or Coloma or any of the games you're working on in development?
Sure. Yeah, I'm easy to get hold of. So I'm on Twitter, I'm on Facebook and all that. And you can just catch me on those things. Check that stuff every day so I can answer questions there. I'm also on BGG, so it's Jonny Pac's my username. It's easy to find. Or if you just go to any of those games and you go to the forums or have a question or Geek Mail, it's all pretty easy. I also have a website, JonnyPac.com, JonnyPac.com. So that's mostly where I'll just have like sell sheets and prototypes and things that are works in progress before they're released, and then it'll have links to stuff that's already published. So next year I got several things lined up through Final Frontier. I'm also working with Dennis at Bellwether Games. We've got a game to come out together called The Lions of Lydia.
Yeah, that's you, The Lions of Lydia. I totally forgot about that. Congratulations, man.
Yeah, thanks. Yeah,
I've been talking to Dennis about it for a long time, and then I got the email that it's finally ready. So I'm looking forward to it. I totally forgot that you were involved in that one. So we'll have to have you back on and talk about the game when it gets closer.
Yeah, that'd be fun. That'd be a lot of fun. That'll also be a nice one for the Gateway group. I think we'll enjoy that one because it's of that similar. It's like it's maybe of a Quack's level of complexity if you want to think of that. So perfect. It's accessible, but there's a lot of little moving parts, but it's still very accessible.
Well, Steve, you mentioned BGG, and we might as well raise our glasses. Our buddy announced on BGG today, Alex Goldsmith and the Dukes of Dice is getting married. He is engaged. So, hey, he's not watching right now, but just in case he ever watches this, let's all give a little toast to our buddy Alex. Cheers, Alex. Congratulations to him and Abby who will be doing that. Make sure to like our Facebook page, facebook.com/BoardGameGumbo. It helps us to get the word out of all of our upcoming shows, including the one coming up in a couple of weeks. We may do this again next week. You never know. I'm still trying to test this thing out. But in 2 weeks, we've got Marty and Tony from Rolling Dice and Taking Names who are going to be coming out to visit with us about their con travels this year and all the games. I'm BJ from Board Game Gumbo. And until next time, everybody, laissez le bon temps rouler.
Bye all.
See you.